NASCAR says it'll only run with 32 charters next season. The BK Racing drama is finally over, and we got some new team owners, and we know where another driver's going in the Toyota lineup, so let's get into all of it. Coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. All right, we're going to talk about the 32 charters. We got to get a couple things out of the way first, starting with BK Racing. That drama is finally over. Via Bob Pockris, former team owner Ron Devine has agreed to a plea deal. Factual basis, Devine did willfully fail to pay over to the Internal Revenue Service $176,000 in trust fund taxes due and owing to the IRS on behalf of BK Racing for the quarter ending June 30th, 2017, court date January 6th. So there you go, from 2017 until now, the BK saga has gone on. They've sold the charters. They finally have come to the resolution that he did, in fact, owe money to the government, and you know, the IRS is always going to collect on their taxes. The IRS always gets their man, all the way back to Al Capone, so no surprise there, but that is finally over. Like I said, that story goes all the way back to 2017. This via John Newby. Joe Gibbs Racing has confirmed that Ty Gibbs will be listed as the owner of the number 54 Xfinity Series car next season. So a few things off jump here. This could just be Joe Gibbs passing off the torch to Ty Gibbs, basically saying he is going to be the next, owner of Joe Gibbs Racing. He'll take over, Joe Gibbs' role. That could be like a symbolic thing that he's doing here. So that thought process came to mind. Another thing I thought about was, if you remember in the charter negotiations, at one point in the charter negotiations, there was some talk about the Cup Series teams would no longer be able to own Xfinity Series teams. Now, I don't know whether or not that language got put into the actual charter agreement or not, but if it did, that means that this could be a move by Joe Gibbs Racing to put at some point, put all of those teams in Ty Gibbs' name, so that he would be, running the essentially Joe Gibbs Racing Xfinity Series team under, Ty Gibbs Racing or whatever it's going to be. So this could be a preemptive move to if one of those situations ever happen like that. And if that happens, I think all the Cup teams that field Xfinity Series teams would do something similar. RCR would put it in Austin Dillon's name, things like that, so forth, so on. They would find a way to basically keep doing what they're doing. They would just put it in somebody else's name. All right, now to the main event. Bob Pockris. NASCAR is working on reallocating funds that plaintiffs would have received to increase prize money and other special awards for the 2025 season for the benefit of teams that timely executed 2025 charters, as well as open teams who can compete to win the increased prize money. And that, of course, referring to NASCAR announcing that it will only run with 32 charters next season, down 4 from the previous 36 that it was running. Those two charters, of course, being 2311 and Front Row Motorsports. And, of course, questions abound. The first being what about the two charters that, 2311 just bought and Front Row just bought? So that's going to be an interesting thing to sort out as these negotiations and things like that continue, so on and so forth, because Haas did sign that agreement, and that is where 2311 and Front Row Motorsports are getting those charters. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see how those two particular charters are treated versus how NASCAR wants to, move on without charters here. But in that statement, it says that NASCAR is going to reallocate those funds to pay for various other things, including prize money and special awards. So I guess they're going to bump up the prize money for the non-charter teams, and they're going by awards. The first thing that popped in my head when they said awards was, of course, the in-season tournament. Maybe they'll use that money for the in-season tournament. This, of course, is all based on whether or not NASCAR wins or loses the injunction when it goes to court, whenever the injunction is ruled on. I assume the injunction will probably be ruled on at the same time, November 4th, that the regular case, when it's heard, to decide whether or not this case has merit or does not have merit. But also, when they said they were going to reallocate those funds, it said they're going to do it to benefit the teams that signed the charters in a timely manner and things like that. So a little bit of shade being thrown there. So this is going to get very contentious just from the wording there. You can tell that was put in there to throw shade at 2311 and Front Row Motorsports for not signing the charters in a timely agreement. Bob would go on to say, NASCAR opens this filing with plaintiffs have filed a meritless suit against NASCAR alleging baseless antitrust claims in order to obtain commercial agreements they previously rejected and to attempt to extort more favorable contract terms. And the funny part of that statement is NASCAR said that somebody's trying to extort NASCAR. But in the first line, you do see what NASCAR is going to try to do at that November 4th hearing. They're saying that this is a meritless case, that everything that 2311 has brought up against NASCAR has no merit. So that is what they're going to first attempt to do. They're going to try to get this thing thrown out before it ever actually goes to trial. So we see right now NASCAR's strategy is to just, get it thrown out, get it dismissed as a frivolous, basically, lawsuit. I'm not a legal expert, so I don't know which way that's going to go. Just going to be interesting to follow from here on out. But that being said, if 2311 can win, they will have quite a significant amount of leverage if they can get NASCAR to open the books. Now, I'm sure there will be things put in place that you won't be able to see all of NASCAR's books, but some of NASCAR's information on those books will leak out inevitably as this case progresses if 2311 can win the first part of it. Of course, on November 4th, where they have to prove that they have enough to take this trial forward. Now, me personally, I'm not a legal expert or anything like that, but I do think 2311 will win it. I do think that this will at least win the opportunity to go to trial, and after that, I think it will get settled probably out of court, because at that point, it's probably going to be in both people's interest to get that handled. But NASCAR has done everything they can up to this point to extend it and make it as difficult as possible. So even if it gets to that point of going to trial, you could see a whole bunch of, motions in between that. So it's just going to be one of these ongoing things that goes on forever and ever. And regardless of what happens, whether 2311 and Front Row Motorsports win or whether 2311 and Front Row Motorsports lose, it's going to put them in this awkward situation where you can tell NASCAR is already peeved, NASCAR is already irritated. So win or lose, no matter what happens, you just feel like at some point NASCAR is going to be petty and take a few shots at both Front Row Motorsports and 2311 going forward. That's just my personal opinion. I could definitely see that happening, though. You could every time the playoffs come around, I'm like, man, how long is 2311 and Front Row Motorsports going to have to go through tech compared to other teams? So I think it's something to just keep in the back of your head. NASCAR is pretty smart. They wouldn't immediately do it, but maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, when this is not getting talked about as much, you could see NASCAR pull something like that. But it's just really interesting, and it just shows how bold you have to be, or how brave, whatever you want to call it, to actually file the lawsuit against NASCAR and then continue to keep racing in there. It's the equivalent of going to your job and suing your employer and then coming back to work. It's a very interesting situation, to say the least. But that's all I got for you on this one. And one more thing that popped up as I was making this: Toyota teams to race under Toyota GAZOO Racing North America banner to align with Toyota racing programs worldwide. Toyota Racing Development, TRD, still exists and is still entity for engines and technology. You'll just hear drivers say Toyota GAZOO Racing instead of Toyota Racing. And also forgot to mention with the Ty Gibbs deal that Taylor Gray will drive the Joe Gibbs Racing number 54 GR Supra full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2025. So new owner and new driver for the 54. If you made it this far, I would love to have your subscription. If not, I'll just keep making these things. If you got a question or comment, leave it down below. I try to get to as many of them as I can. And of course, if you're already subscribed, I appreciate you all as well. All right, got to get this wrapped up. Doing this pretty late at night. Got to wake up pretty early in the morning. Going to North Wilkesboro to help out with Tate Fogelman. Going to help him for his qualifying effort. I won't be there Saturday. So, but if you're there Friday for whatever reason, maybe if you see me, say what's up. Otherwise, pull for Tate in the super late model race on Flow. And until then, till the next one. Peace.